Terrific Tuesday. How are we doing, everybody? We are back. It's your man, Sammy the Man McIntyre. We are back with Moving the Chains podcast. Hope we're rocking, hope we're rolling today. I'm not feeling as good as Houston Texans are this morning because last night was, wow, that was a beatdown. And listen, I was pulling for the Steelers last night. My buddy Blake Adams, a big Steeler fan. I was rooting for him. And then we were kind of texting, and he goes, man, it's beatdown. It's over, night. And it was. And I want to touch on that. I also want to talk about other games today, but there were some firings that happened that your boy kind of broke some news a little bit. Kind of not surprising firings, but we'll get to that. But I want to start with last night's game. So the Houston Texans move on. They go play New England in what should be a very, very good matchup, black and blue kind of game. Kind of like last night. But I want to touch on the Houston Texans first. Because last night, to me, they got lucky. And I think the problem with Houston that I see, they're a very good football team, and I love their team. I love D'Amico. I love C.J. Stroud. This defense, and I've been saying this all year long, they to me and Denver are like the same team, carbon copies of each other. Defensive that just have Ferraris and Porsches and just horsepower everywhere on all three levels. But I've said before, the only difference I see with Houston and Denver is, usually when you got a great defense, there's always a hole, right? The Bears during their run, their secondary was a little iffy when Urlacher and those guys. The Steelers, they give up some chunk plays over the top, right? When I watch Houston, they don't give nothing, and I mean zilch, away. No freebies, no chunks. They had some last night, but the game was kind of out of reach enough that they can allow some chunk. It was kind of cotton candy, empty calories. But last night, to me, with C.J. Stroud was, he's got to play better. And he broke a playoff record last night, not for the right cause, of 5 fumbles in the first half. That's embarrassing. Now, I know on the broadcast, Troy Aikman was kind of saying, well, in the center, blah, blah, blah. You can't have that. Playoff games are ratchet up intensity, lots on the line, and had it not been for Pittsburgh kind of not having an offense, and I'll get to them in a second, but that was bad. And Houston is lucky they got away with that. Now, granted, their defense, like I said all year long, is just elite. At every level, D'Amico's done a really nice job. The way the Texans have responded after 2022 being a laughingstock in the league, getting D'Amico, getting CJ, then trading up back in the first round to get Will Anderson, to combine those three has been nothing short of spectacular. They've gone farther. They've gone, they won a wild card game his first year, lost the second. In 2024, they won the first, so it's kind of been a trend. Now what the Texans have to do is, can they advance farther? Because they always get a step. They always win a game, lose. So C.J. Stroud now is 3-2 in the playoffs. 3-2, that's really good. But the problem with Texans is, that I see is, they need him to play like a Brad Johnson or a Mac Jones or one of those guys. And I get it. Because if Houston, their defense is so damn elite, don't fuck it up, right? You're driving a Mercedes. Don't crash in the car. Don't crash in the tree, right? So that's what I feel like with Houston. But I get where C.J. Stroud's coming from. He's like, no, I don't. I was second overall pick. I should have been the first in front of Bryce Young in that draft. So I get where he comes from. And he's a playmaker, but when you make plays sometimes, you're going to have bad mistakes. And he fucked around and found out last night. So I do think Houston, I can't wait for Saturday. Man, them against Will Campbell, my guy, who I absolutely love coming out of the draft, and I just heard Daniel Jeremiah, who covered the Chargers, and he's a longtime scout, did the color commentary for the Chargers. He was saying Will Campbell got turned around a lot. Now listen, he's a rookie. I got it. I'm going to defend my guy. He's a good player. But this weekend's going to be a different level of intensity. He's going to have his hands full with Danielle Hunter and with Will Anderson. And we all know Will Anderson's a badass. He's some guy you build your team around. But Danielle Hunter? What the hell is Minnesota doing? They got rid of him. You imagine if they had him now? With the way Brian Flores dials up blitzes? It'd be crazy. So, great job for the Texans last night. They got lucky. Now, they got to clean up some stuff. Can't have all that bad center exchange shit in New England. Now, look. New England's defense not no bad either. Okay? They've done pretty well. Now, granted, they played a bad offensive line for the Chargers. I'll get to them in a second because they just fired the line coach, which, not surprising. And they fired Greg Roman. Not surprising. I'll get to that. But that was hard to watch for Aaron Rodgers. And I believe what is his last game. We'll see what happens. But way to go for Houston. I'm so impressed with D'Amico. So impressed with C.J. Stroud. And the way that they flipped this organization around in 3 years, that really shows coaching really matters. And I thought it was kind of cool in the broadcast last night. D'Amico, when he was a player in Houston, sacked Aaron Rodgers during, I believe, Aaron's first year in the league. And I remember Houston beat Green Bay 24-21. This was Aaron's first year where Green Bay lost a lot of close games. So I thought it was kind of a cool moment. But way to go, Houston. They move past Pittsburgh, and they get it done. And good for them. I'm happy for the Texans. I like rooting for the Texans. I'm a big Will Anderson guy. Like D'Amico a lot. The organization's well run now. I'm just good for them. So on the Pittsburgh side of things, I got the news today at work that I know Blake Adams told me we got to fire Mike Tomlin. We got to fire the offensive coordinator. Well, Mike Tomlin stepped down today. As I got off of work today, Mike Tomlin stepped down. And it was time. And I think in life and in relationships, in football, time's moving on. And I know the Pittsburgh Steelers are well run, and they're like the Packers, and they don't, they're loyal, and I get it. But now I think Pittsburgh's got to look at themselves and go, we got to do different here. And listen, I give a lot of respect to Mike Tomlin. He's been there, done that, never had a losing season. And he's won a Super Bowl and 13. I got all the achievements. He's had a great run in Pittsburgh. And he'll be remembered. He'll probably have a statue outside of Pittsburgh. They got a lot of statues, just like the Packers. They got a lot of Hall of Famers. But I do think Tomlin, and I've been critical of him. This is not a day to bang on him. But I always felt with Tomlin sometimes, he got the force field of popularity around him. And people think I'm not going to get into the race thing. That's not my game. But he always felt force field of popularity. Like, I think he lucked into that franchise, kind of like Ryan Day did with the Ohio State. And he struck while the iron was hot. Now, I think they should have done more, no doubt about it. They lost to Tebow a couple times. They lost to Blake Bortles, But you just saw the end was near in Pittsburgh. In the last 7 playoff games, they've been down in the second half, 42-21. And I get Big Ben retired, and you were kind of scrambling, and just like the Colts, you were kind of scrambling. Andrew Luck kind of left on you, and I get it. But I thought it was time. I think, it's time for Tomlin to move on. They got to go a different direction. And watching Aaron Rodgers last night, that was hard to watch. And I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I've defended him a lot. Not winning a lot of Super Bowls. I get that. But that was hard to watch last night. And Aaron, I'm just sitting there going, what are you doing this for? You got the money, you got the fame, you got the legacy, you got Super Bowls, the MVPs. It was bad. And you knew Houston was they were licking their chops because they're like, we're going to go after these dogs. And the thing with Houston's defense, and they didn't do anything exotic last night. I mean, they really didn't. It was, we're going to line up. My guy's better than your guy, and we're going to kick your ass. And they did. And I mean, what I don't give a Pittsburgh last night in that game is they gifted you 3 turnovers. Houston did. And yet this offense, I've been saying this for a while, is not creative. It's not it's not juicy. It's not, I'm watching McVay. I'm watching Shanahan. It's motion. It's speed. Advantage of the snap. It's, force defense respect the run. And then it's all these different personnel groupings. That's none of that with Pittsburgh. And listen, Aaron, he jumped into quicksand with Pittsburgh's offense, and he got sucked in it. But I've said with all year long with Aaron, he's made him smarter. He's made it more smoother. It's a lot of things. But it's time for him to retire. It's time. He's 42. if you would have said to me he plays until his 40s 15 years ago, you would have thought I was crazy. But he's had a wonderful career. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the prettiest throwers of the football I've ever seen. Now, I wasn't around for Dan Marino. By the way, I have his jersey, by the way. I might rep it tomorrow. You never know. But I will say this. I wasn't around for Marino, wasn't around for Elway, those guys that my dad grew up with. But he's one of the prettiest throwers I've ever seen with the football. I still contend with this. And I didn't touch on C.J. Stroud, by the way. C.J. Stroud, when he's like on, there's different level of oomph to that ball. A little flick of the wrist. He's got a new nickname. It's called SOS. You know, I always say Smooth Operator Sam for the ladies. But I'm going to call it Smooth Operator Stroud because when he's on and it's humming, holy moly, it's great. But he can get into trouble at times. And I think with Aaron, and listen, he you know, always protected his legacy and the passer rating and I get it. But there are times with Aaron, I'm like, can you let it rip a little? You know, let it rip a little, dude. But hey, his game's his game. I'm not going to harp on him. But last night was embarrassing. I mean, for the Steeler team, like, you kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like, it's time. Tomlin needed to retire. He stepped down. He didn't do it out of negativity and all that. But, it was time. And I respect Mike Tomlin. He deserved to go out on his own terms. Wish he would have won a playoff game near the last 9 years of his run. Didn't. Some of that I blame on him. Some of that I blame on the organization. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do a Chicago Bears right now. They need to do a reboot, reset, go offensive like the Bears did. Because the Bears, like the Steelers, I've been critical of them the last couple of years, they're tone-deaf to offense. And they need to go back to that. Now, the Pittsburgh needs to go get an offensive coach. I think it'd be really sweet if they got Stefanski, stick it to Cleveland after letting him go. Two-time coach of the year. Really respected. But, once again, Pittsburgh's probably going to be where they've been. Not have any urgency at quarterback. You know, it's going to be weird. You got DK and his contract, which blows my mind. They still gave him $150 million. That's like getting a sports car, not knowing how to drive it. The GM stepped down, Kevin Colbert, who I really respected a lot. They drafted really well under his watch. They kept the guy. I think Omar Khan had been there since 2000, been with the organization for a long time. Pittsburgh's a very old school. And very much like Green Bay, you know. But you got to adapt and you got to pivot. You got to reset. And I think Pittsburgh right now, they got to do that. First off, you got to get your quarterback. Listen, they've been more than patient. They hung on to Big Ben's old ass for years. Although I said at the time, get rid of him. You know, you don't want to become, and I said this years ago, is that you don't want to become the Chargers, the Steelers, or the Giants with that 04 quarterback class. Where you had Eli Manning, where you had Phillip Rivers, and you had Big Ben. You're just hanging on. And that was my worry with the Steelers. Because they had chances to take quarterbacks, and they didn't. So, great job for Mike Tomlin. He goes out on his own terms. I don't know what he's going to do next. I know there's 7 job openings. I'll touch on the Raiders tomorrow. Part of me wants him to hire him, but another part of me says, I need offensive mind. Tomlin's old school retread. Need a new guy. So, we're going to see and find out tomorrow what happens with the Raiders and stuff and what's going on. But, great job for Pittsburgh. They got they kind of end the season like they have been. Kind of choppy, kind of sluggish. And I just got to tip my cap to Aaron Rodgers if this is his last game. Because it's been an honor to watch him play. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time to watch. I put him in my top 10 of all time watching. I'm going to get kind of sad. Like, all the guys I grew up on. The Manning, Brady, Favre. Trying to think. Breeze. You know, guys I grew up on, they're gone. And Russell Wilson got benched. And, you know, it's just sad because I grew up on that era of football. So much good quarterback play. And we don't have a lot of guys left. So, if that's the last time for Aaron Rodgers, hard to see him go out that way. But, hey, it's had a hell of a run. So, that's all I got on that game. Just to recap, Houston moves on. And it's going to be an interesting matchup. I want to trust Houston, but I got to kind of pick and choose my spot on what I want to think about that game. And then Pittsburgh, time to reboot, time to reset, go offensive mind, kind of go the Chicago Bears route. So we'll see what happens. A lot of moving parts in Pittsburgh, got a lot of things to clean up roster-wise, so on and so forth. But that is my take on that game. And a couple breaking news today that I saw. Kevin Patullo got fired. Any Eagle fan? Woo! All right. But there's a caveat. This didn't solve your whole problem. And listen, Nick Sirianni, got a message for you, bro. Next time, do not pick the offense coordinator. The 2 times you've been burned, you did it in-house with Brian Johnson 2023, and you did it this year with Kevin Patullo, and it has bit you in the ass. And it's gone horrible. Now, part of this, too, is they got to keep a steady coordinator. Okay? The times they've done it, I mean, I've left down the list. Doug Peterson 2020. Then you had Shane Steichen. Then you had Brian Johnson. Then you had Kellen Moore. And now you have Brian Patullo, and now you're going to have a 6th. You got to have continuity in terms of offensive coordinators and stuff. And I get offense coordinators, once your team wins, teams want to pick at that and get a bite of the apple. I get that. But that's what Philly needs to do. And even Jason Kelce called them out. They need to be creative. And I said this with Pittsburgh. They're just not creative. It's very boring. It's very, it's not exciting. And they need to do that. And I think that's what the Philadelphia Eagles need to do moving forward. You're not getting rid of the defense. Defense has got talent everywhere, and Vic Fangio's highly paid at $6 million a year for a coordinator. He ain't leaving. Good for him. But this offense needs to get better. No doubt about it. You got to get better. You got talent on this football team offensively. You're paying it a lot of money. My first step, get rid of A.J. Brown, get rid of his cancer ass, and got to go. Bye. You bitching and moaning all year long, and then when the ball comes to you, you drop the ball. I don't want to hear it. So, time to go. Trade them. Get rid of them. Bye-bye. Send them to New England. Pair them with Mike Vrabel. Go on their way. He's their problem. And then the other news I saw was the Chargers got rid of Greg Roman, and they got rid of their offensive line coach, Devlin. And those were right moves. And it's hard to get rid of people. It's hard to be loyal to people. But it's a bottom line business, results oriented. And I think the Chargers kind of at a crossroads right now. I think you need to kind of, who's going to fit that bill of offensive coordinator? I don't know. The Chargers do not turn into Detroit. Now, it's a different situation. Detroit had Ben Johnson, was rolling, and then they get going house and play it safe. Now, Greg Roman's done well in this league, and he's been well respected, and the run game and all that stuff. But I feel like he was kind of playing with his hand tied behind his back this year with the run game, with the Chargers kind of being banged up. It just wasn't, it didn't feel right at times. Now, the offensive line played a huge part in that, losing both tackles. That was going to be a problem Saturday night up in Fox, or Sunday night in Foxborough, regardless of the situation, even if they were healthy. But that's what happens. And I think the Chargers moving forward got to keep adding to that offensive line, having depth. You know what the Harbaugh teams are going to be. They're going to be tough, resilient, physical, smash mouth. That's what they're going to be. And I just wonder moving forward, are the Chargers going to kind of screw Herbert like Nolan Ryan was screwed? All-time talent, all-time flamethrower, but just can't get it done when it matters. And I think Herbert is moving into Peyton Manning territory where early on in Peyton Manning's career, he was this great all-time talent, but then he teased you in the playoffs. So you got to kind of wonder that with Herbert. I still am a big fan of Herbert, but a lot of this is on him. His Charger defense forced 10 turnovers. He has not come through in the clutches. So that is all I got for you guys tonight. We got Raider news tomorrow. We don't got games. And then Thursday, we got where we got I gotta do my picks. And we'll go on from there. But we have got football galore coming up. We got college football Monday night. So stay tuned throughout the week. Terrific Tuesday. My Move the Chains audience. Adios. Godspeed.